Now make that 3 in a row for Michigan over Ohio State. Final score yesterday in Ann Arbor, Michigan 30, Ohio State 24. Got to feel very validating if you're Michigan, because there was so much talk around what had happened off the field for your football team the entirety of the lead up to this football game, the entirety of the season for the most part, honestly. And it felt like Ohio State, they matched up much better than they had in years past with this Michigan football team. But Michigan, yet again, flexing their muscle, flexing their culture, flexing their response mechanism, and finding a way to get it done again. That's 3 in a row now for the Wolverines. We'll talk about it right now. But first things first, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We're talking college football every single day. Hey, don't look now, but some big games coming up for your Wolverines. All right, we're going to talk about it a lot on this channel. We'll preview our Big Ten championship game this upcoming weekend on the live show. So make sure you subscribe. That's first. Second, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Piquel. We appreciate y'all so much in advance for that. Michigan Wolverine fans, make sure you're dialed in here. So how did they get it done yesterday? Because it was a different script than we had seen from years past. The last couple of years, it was Michigan in the second half. That heavy weight just breaks the back of Ohio State. Now, you'll take a dub any way you can get it, but the way they got it yesterday, I think, is twofold. The first is they won in the non-negotiables. What it was going to take, what you had to do, the boxes you had to check, you checked. That was winning the rushing battle, 156 to 107. Clutch on fourth down, going 3 for 3. And then in the differentiating factors, you were timely. Like J.J. McCarthy, the stat line wasn't glowing. He didn't go for over 300 yards and throw for a bunch of touchdowns, but he was timely. 16 for 20, 148 yards and a touchdown. That's winning football. We talked a lot about the evolution of Ohio State's defense, the evolution of Michigan's offense. Ohio State, they're going to try and stop the run. They're going to try and keep that from being the gashing plays that they let up last year against Michigan. They're going to be better at that this year. Now, Michigan, can you be better throwing the football? They were great last year throwing the football, and they were timely this year. Defensively for Michigan, played the game needed to play. We said it going in here. Hey, Marvin Harrison Jr., they are going to feed him the football. He is going to be the go-to guy for Ohio State. And to be clear, Marvin Harrison Jr. still got his. Had a touchdown, had over 100 yards. But you played well enough to where he wasn't the guy that beat you. He didn't have the takeover button on this day against Michigan. Now, Ohio State fans probably feel some kind of way with how he was utilized, but still, if you're a Michigan man, got it done. Got it done on that side of the football. Also, you forced Kyle McCord to beat you by pushing the ball downfield. You made it a thing where, hey, Kyle McCord, if you're going to beat us, we'll live with it, but you're going to have to do it by trying to make plays downfield, obvious passing situations. And the way that it felt to me watching this game, Michigan defensively forced Kyle McCord into the version of Kyle McCord that you probably picked Michigan for, if that makes sense. Like Kyle McCord, I think, was a pretty efficient quarterback going into the game, but we felt like, hey, if it falls on number 6, we think Michigan has a good chance to win it. And they ultimately did that. He went 18 for 30, had 2 touchdowns, but had those 2 interceptions, and that was kind of the difference maker there. Obviously, the difference maker on that final drive. So for Michigan now, where are we at? I think if you're a Wolverine fan this morning, you feel like that was the silencer. Like, what else do you have to say now? Because there was so much talk around Connor Stallions and sign stealing, and that's why Michigan won the Big Ten the last couple of years. There's no more talking about that today. Because I promise you, there was no sign stealing going on illegally, at least yesterday, from what we can gather. There was nothing being said around, well, that was why they won, that was why they this, that was why they that. Like, all of that is just hush. The volume all the way turned down. And there is nobody here saying, oh, it's okay to cheat. Oh, it's okay to do what Michigan did. I'm not saying that, but I am saying we always had this thought, and you probably had this thought too for those of y'all that are dialed in here. The reason why Michigan was good wasn't because they were stealing signs. It was because they had double-digit NFL draft guys on their team. Does it help to steal signs the way Michigan did? I'd have to imagine it did. I'd have to imagine it was a factor. But again, going back to this game, Harbaugh this, Harbaugh that, Connor Stallions this, Connor Stallions that. No more. 3 in a row. That's what you can say now if you're a Michigan fan. And the pushback, I think, from that will be, well, hey, look, it was a lot closer, and that's why, I mean, hey, you saw the different sign stealing made. That's what it was yesterday. No, I think that's just disrespectful to the way that Ohio State played yesterday. I think Ohio State, we said all year long, they matched up much better with this Michigan team than they had in years past. Ultimately, Michigan pivoted better, had the differentiating factors, like we talked about, be the difference maker, and the passing game and the fourth down conversions. That was what did it for Michigan. That was why they won the game. They were better in the key areas. And when Zach Zinter went down for Michigan, there was that feeling of, golly, are they going to be able to recover from this? Like, more adversity on this team. And some of this, obviously, is the stuff that Michigan had kind of self-imposed with the suspension early in the year with Harbaugh, and the stuff with the Big Ten and accepting their own suspension. And then this happens. This obviously wasn't self-imposed, but just another piece of adversity for this football team to endure. And it felt like the very next play, Blake Corum breaking off that touchdown, it felt like a microcosm of what this team has done all year long, which is just, hey, there's adversity, whether it's self-imposed, whether it's something that happens to us within this locker room, we just respond. Something bad happens, we refocus, we reset, we just respond. That offensive line, they lose one of their leaders. It was very clear the emotional impact that had on that team. Blake Corum throwing up the 6-5 once it gets in the end zone. They just reset, shuffle the deck on the offensive line. They respond, end up winning the game. Now for Michigan, the job's not finished. And I think the thing they need to guard against now, and the thing I expect they will guard against now, and Jim Harbaugh will do a phenomenal job of getting them on track here, you have to avoid the exhale effect. Because the temptation would be the feeling of, okay, we made it to the other side now. We won those 3 games without Jim Harbaugh. We beat Penn State without Jim Harbaugh. We beat Ohio State for the 3rd year in a row without Jim Harbaugh. Okay, now we got our coach back. Okay, we made it. We're on the other side of this. When in reality, the climb is just beginning now for Michigan. Because the last couple of seasons, they've done this. They've beat Ohio State. They've gotten to this point. They've won the Big Ten, but nobody came back just to beat Ohio State. I'm sure that was part of it. Blake Corum was clear. We came back to win games like this. That's part of it. But just beating Ohio State and then having a chance to play for a Big Ten title and then making the college football playoff, that has become the price of admission at Michigan the last couple of seasons. We all understand that. The goal now, and the goal always was to win a national title, to get back to that spot last year where they lost to TCU, to finish business, to play for a national title, and bring home some hardware. That is the goal. It is no longer good enough just to beat Ohio State and just to win the Big Ten. I mean, those are obviously crucial parts of this. But I think for Michigan, they have to understand, and I'm sure they do understand internally, they've said this already since winning that game. Job is not finished. Job is not finished. So now they get Jim Harbaugh back, and I'm excited to see what they do with him back as their head coach. Because, again, I have a hard time believing they're going to take their foot off the gas. But that's something to watch for here for Michigan as they move on now, once again, to the Big Ten championship game, where they will play Iowa. And you'd have to imagine have themselves a pretty good shot at making another appearance in the college football playoff. So we'll talk about that Iowa game this week on this live show. So make sure to dial in right here. Michigan fans, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate y'all being a part of this operation. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram at JD Piquel. Let me know what y'all thought of that game yesterday. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.